Hi, I'm Carl Azus, delivering Thursday's edition of CNN 10 to viewers worldwide. Wherever you're watching, welcome to the show. The Democratic Republic of Congo, a nation in Central Africa, isn't just dealing with conflict between government troops and armed rebel groups. It's dealing with a deadly outbreak of the Ebola virus. And those two factors are making it increasingly difficult for international aid workers to stop the virus from spreading. More than half of the people who've caught the virus have died from it. The World Health Organization, a medical agency of the United Nations, held a meeting yesterday to discuss the crisis. It says that the latest Ebola outbreak in Congo is a regional concern, but at this point it does not fit the description of a public health emergency of international concern. Part of the reason for that, officials have gotten better at fighting Ebola. For one thing, there's a vaccine available. It's still experimental. It hasn't been universally approved yet. But researchers with the WHO expect that approval will be given soon. There are also several drugs available to treat Ebola that haven't all been available in the 10 outbreaks that have happened since 1976. But some health analysts say what's occurring in Congo is still a major outbreak, and as the security situation gets worse, so does the ability of health officials to get a handle on it.
In the eastern Congo, a deadly Ebola outbreak in the middle of a conflict zone. The World Health Organization calls it a vicious cycle. Their health teams losing track of cases and contacts because of mistrust and violence.
There are attacks and there's a violence between government and rebel groups that is not directly targeted to Ebola responders, but that force teams to not be able to function fully.
The Center for Disease Control's team has now been pulled out of the worst impacted areas because of safety concerns, say US officials. For days, specialist teams haven't been able to function. The outbreak began in early August. It's lasted longer and killed more than they had feared.
You recall that we started with a 3-month time period. Now we'll be looking at least another 3 or 4 months in order to really stem this outbreak.
So far, there have been 211 cases of Ebola, with at least 135 deaths. And the WHO says there is a high risk of regional spread. Insecurity, large populations of displaced people, and fluid borders are major factors that could cause a broader epidemic. The greatest risk still is in North Kivu and the city of Beni. Some suspected Ebola patients are too afraid to go to clinics, believing it could be a death sentence. In reality, it's the best chance they have.
Now we have people that have been really lost to follow up. They've not been found for days on end, not just from one day and they picked up the next day. The overwhelming majority of those people are in Beni, more than 90%.
This outbreak is still nothing like the catastrophic epidemic in West Africa in 2014, where more than 11,000 died in 6 countries from the highly infectious disease that leads to internal hemorrhaging and frequently death. The WHO was criticized for acting too slowly then, but it's different now. Their teams rushed in with a new weapon. They've already reached thousands in high-risk areas with an experimental vaccine. Doctors now use a more effective clinical regime learned from bitter experience in 2014 and new treatments. It helped cure this woman in Beni. Doctors celebrating every victory because their battle is far from over. David McKenzie, CNN Johannesburg.
10-second trivia. Which of these American companies employs the most workers? Walmart, McDonald's, UPS, or the Home Depot? With more than 2 million employees around the world and 1.5 million in the U.S. alone, Walmart is the largest private employer on Earth. Help wanted. As of this August, there are more job openings in the U.S. than there have been at any point since the year 2000, when the Labor Department launched its Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey. How many jobs? Almost 7,140,000. And that's with hiring at record levels as well, with 5,780,000 Americans getting jobs in August. In another first for the survey, there are now more job openings in America than there are unemployed people in America. That's according to the U.S. Labor Department. Contrast that to when the Great Recession officially ended in June of 2009. At that time, there were 6 unemployed Americans for every 1 job opening. The new numbers are great news for the U.S. economy, and they are for workers who have the skills for the jobs that are available. And though wage growth hasn't kept pace with job growth in recent years, it has been increasing in recent months. And economists are saying that with more companies competing with each other to hire a limited number of workers, wages are likely to go up faster as well. Are there any downsides here? Well, an economist interviewed by the Wall Street Journal says that if job openings continue to increase, but the pool of workers does not, it could result in a labor shortage, and that could put the brakes on U.S. economic growth. For now, though, economists say those who are in the market for a new job and who are a good match for the jobs that are available will probably have more power to negotiate salaries and perks than they have in the past. A new sort of report card is out for 25 of America's top hamburger chains, and 22 of them got an F. The report concerns the use of antibiotics in their food supplies. It was conducted by several nonprofit advocacy and research groups. The 25 fast food restaurants in the report were ranked by their total sales in the U.S., and they were graded on 3 main areas. 1, are these companies promising to eliminate routine antibiotics from the animals in their food supply? 2, how are they doing that? And 3, what proof is there that they're making good on their promises? The U.S. Food and Drug Administration approves the use of antibiotics in the food supply, and those who support the practice say it keeps food safer by decreasing the amount of harmful bacteria in it. But scientists are concerned that rampant use of antibiotics in the animals used for food could have dangerous consequences down the road for the people who eat it.
6 consumer interest groups are now sounding the alarm about the use of antibiotics in meat served at the 25 largest burger chains in the United States. Shake Shack and BurgerFi are the only 2 chains that only serve beef raised without antibiotics and earned a grade of A. 22 chains got an F on the Chain Reaction 4 report for their lack of antibiotic policies and practices.
So why should you care about this? Well, as you know, antibiotics should be used to treat an animal or a human with a bacterial infection. But in this case, antibiotics were used to prevent potential diseases that could stem from poor diets and crowded, dirty conditions. But here's the problem with that. Using antibiotics when they're not needed can make bacteria resistant. And a human can potentially eat those bacteria, especially if the meat is not cooked properly. The result? Antibiotics may not work then, when we need them most. You should know that the beef industry also uses 6 hormones to promote faster growth and weight gain. Here's a good rule of thumb. Read the ingredients and try to avoid eating foods that contain ingredients you can't pronounce. The old adage has always and will forever continue to hold true. You are what you eat.
It's one thing to pop a wheelie, it's another to do that and ride the bike across a country. That's what Kurt Osborne did back in 1999, setting a Guinness World Record. Now, he's back on 2 pedals but 1 wheel to try to break his own record. The last time, it took him 74 days to travel more than 2,800 miles. This time, he's hoping to finish the journey in 45 days. The 49-year-old wheelie king is using a plexiglass trailer to help block the wind. Because being busted by a gust of bluster would be a wheelie big shame. Besides getting wheelie tired, at least one tired, there's one wheelie good reason not to embike on such a journey. Without balance, you might need to recycle. I'm Carl Azuz, peddling news and puns for CNN 10.